Darlington wasn't one of them. It was the first division taking on the third, or at least so it says on paper. Even on the odd occasion that Middlesbrough poured, it all fizzled away. There was a certain je ne sais quoi missing from this game. And as the shuttlecock flipped backwards and forwards, it became painfully obvious Middlesbrough weren't going to score. Lenny Lawrence must have been hoping this was just the apathy you sometimes get on friendly. Gary Chapman almost made it worse. Six minutes from time, and Darlington sensed victory was within their grasp. Lee Ellison welcomed the responsibility. It was something for Darlington to shout about, but for the fans who were keeping quiet elsewhere in the ground, it was a game to forget.
Trip that's changed at Darlington. No fewer than 8 of last season's team have moved away from Feethams in the close season. They include last year's top scorer, Steve Mardenborough. But perhaps the biggest blow to Billy McEwen's side was the loss of goalkeeper Mark Prudder to First Division Stoke City. 25-year-old Darren Collier arrived from Blackburn to fill the gap between posts. And with no money to spend on experienced players, McEwen has to rely on one of the league's youngest squads. But he's confident they can deliver the goods, starting against Rochdale tomorrow.
It's a big challenge for everybody at the club, and the players concerned. Realistically, I mean, we're looking to go for promotion. We've got a young squad, as you see this morning. So it's going to take a little bit of time for the young lads to blend in and settle in. But we're optimistic.
There's a new ring of confidence at Scarborough, Darlington and Scarborough. Suddenly, At Feethams, Rochdale's former Hartlepool goalkeeper Martin Hodge went off with concussion before half-time, only to return later against his manager's wishes. Rochdale went in front when Andy Thackeray's pole driver flew past new keeper Darren Collier. But Darlington earned a point when Gary Himsworth's shot was deflected over a seemingly still dazed Hodge. 1-1.
On to athletic each other already, because there's more to come in the third. Quakers boss Billy McEwen must have ordered extra shooting practice this week at Feethams.
Darlington got off to a cracking start at Lincoln. Steve Gaughan with a curling free kick would have put a smile on the face of a Brazilian, let alone the travelling fans. But the Quakers were pegged back when George Switzer was penalised after this rough and tumble with Peter Costello. And after the protests died down, Ian Barrett slotted home the penalty to earn Lincoln a draw.
Doesn't sound too bad after the start the Quakers have made to the season, but it could so easily have been a win and all 3 points for Billy McEwen's young side.
This is Darlington's Steve Gaughan on the ball here at Chesterfield and on his way to a terrific goal. The 1-2 is with Gary Chapman, but the glory is all Gaughan's. Superb stuff, and just the confidence booster his team needed with only 13 minutes gone. But the Quakers' fortunes gradually went downhill. 2 minutes into the second half, the former Scarborough winger Mark Jules is sent flying by Adam Reid, and that scything tackle put the defender out of the game, not Jules. Reid gets the red card, and Darlington have a long slog to face with 10 men. They look to have clung on, but in the very last minute, Darren Carr's knock-on falls for Steve Norris. 1-1, and not very much seems to be going Darlington's way.
Performances of the season. That was mainly due to one of 3 players making their debut at Feethams. Robbie Painter was their danger man against Walsall yesterday, but however hard he tried, he couldn't break through.
Robbie Painter now knows why Darlington fans often believe it can only get better. The new boys' frustrating afternoon against Walsall began with this first-half effort against the crossbar. Then in the last quarter of an hour, double disappointment. Painter chases for possession. He's got the keeper stranded, but Stuart Ryder gets back to scramble the ball away. Bad luck comes in threes. Here's the hat-trick of close shaves. A downward header finds the post again. They're used to piling on the agony at Feethams.
Alan Murray is likely to be a contender for the hot seat down at Darlington. Billy McEwen resigned as boss at Feethams last night after a board meeting at the club. His side hasn't won a league game all season. Another possible successor is Ray McHale, Scarborough's former manager.
According to the Darlington board, Billy McEwen resigned from his job as manager last night According to the manager today, he hadn't formally tendered his resignation, and as far as he was concerned, he was still the manager. Well, that was the situation right up until about an hour ago, when McEwen finally emerged from the ground to say he had indeed left the club. As I understand it, the stumbling block was the signing of a legal document governing McEwen's departure from the club and the compromise payoff deal he'd agreed with the board for going. Billy McEwen, according to his chairman, resigned last night following the club's slump to the bottom of the table. But for much of today, he was still behind his desk in a wrangle over a severance deal. Then, just over an hour ago, he finally emerged to accept he had no future at the club.
I wish I was still manager, but no, that's football. I've officially left now, and I just want to wish the players all the very best, and I hope they can just climb the table. I'm sure they can.
It was all in stark contrast to the situation last night, when it all seemed so clear-cut, with the chairman announcing after a lengthy boardroom meeting that the manager was going.
Well, the directors have considered the current results, and they haven't been satisfactory. And after a long discussion, Billy McEwen has resigned as manager of Darlington.
Ian Bartram, the Darlington fan recruited by Look North this season to give a terrace view of the game, wasn't surprised at McEwen's departure.
I think after the performance on Saturday, not so much the result, it was the way the result came about. If Northampton had scored 5 or 6, Darlington couldn't really have complained, hit the woodwork several times, keeper made 2 or 3 good saves. I think the performance itself made it rather inevitable, yes.
McEwen, who'd previously managed at Rotherham and Sheffield United, took over at Darlington 16 months ago. In that time, he slashed the club's considerable debt, but with no money to spend, had largely to build a team made up of free transfers and youngsters thrown into first-team action from the club's youth ranks. He saw that team slump to bottom of the 3rd Division without a win in 9 games. Newcastle take a 4-1 lead to Notts County for their Coca-Cola Cup tie tonight, and for one player in...
Steve Wicks has been put in charge at Scarborough, while Darlington have stayed close to home and gone for the former Hartlepool boss, Alan Murray.
Murray has been in the soccer wilderness for 8 months after being sacked by Hartlepool in February. His only real contact with the game has been scouting missions for Bournemouth. Now he's been handed the toughest job in football. Darlington are 5 points adrift at the bottom of the Football League and without a win this season. He worked miracles when he guided Poole to promotion 2 years ago after taking over in tragic circumstances from Cyril Knowles. Now he's got to wave a magic wand again.
Yeah, well, we've gone in with our eyes open. It's a task, but it's not unachievable. I think as long as you can see something at the end of it, then you can go and give it everything you've got.
What's your first priority going into the job this morning?
We need to build the players up, really. We need to change the attitude, and we need to get a smile on their face and just take a bit of fear out of them. I think they look to me as though they've been playing with a bit of fear and trying to make a mistake. And everybody makes mistakes, and as long as they don't make too many, then, you know, we'll sort of change things around.
Murray and his number 2, Eddie Kyle, who was with Alan at the Victoria Ground, have been given short-term contracts by Chairman John BROCKBANK. But if they can save the club from relegation to the conference, the deal will be extended.
Who knocked the Fizz out of Sunderland in the Coca-Cola Cup.
These clubs at the bottom of the 3rd Division. Steve Wicks, the former Chelsea, Derby, Crystal Palace and QPR defender, takes over at Scarborough. That team hasn't won for 15 games in the 3rd from bottom. But even worse at Darlington, who haven't won this season under rock bottom. Their new manager is the former Hartlepool boss, Alan Murray. Alan Murray was sacked at the start of the year after Hartlepool had had a poor but not disastrous run of results. The previous season he'd taken them to promotion from the old 4th Division and seemed to be heading for a long and successful career at the Victoria Ground. But since his sacking, he's helped out clubs a little with scouting, but mainly drawn the dole. After the formal introductions today, he and assistant Eddie Kyle were getting used to their new office and looking ahead to the difficult tasks in front of them.
I think we've got to restore some belief. I think the players are obviously suffering from a lack of confidence, which comes from poor results. I think we've got to turn that round and get a smile on their face. You know, it's not the end of the world to make a mistake, as long as they work hard to repair it and don't make the same mistake too many times. I think we've got to relax a wee bit and just get them enjoying themselves.
Sunderland.
The Darlington dressing room was a different story, though, after a controversial opening to their game at Scunthorpe. The referee says he spotted a handball from Mark Sunley and gave the spot kick. It seemed harsh, but Matt Carmichael was in no mood for a reprieve. The Quakers 1-0 down at half-time. 4 minutes after the break, it got worse for Alan Murray's side. Carmichael's back heel and Graham Alexander beating Darren Collier at the near post. Scunthorpe sealed the 3 points with a third goal from appropriately named Neil Treble. So the Quakers still without a win, but the new boss is optimistic.
I was obviously disappointed with the result, but I was encouraged with some of the play. You know, things happened that I wasn't happy about, naive defending and not being aware of where people were caused us to lose goals at the back. But the first 20 minutes, 25 minutes was very encouraging, I thought.
Now in racing, a bumper crowd.
In 3, and a win at last for Darlington and their new manager in a dramatic match against Colchester at Feethams. Alan Murray's first home game in charge was just 40 seconds old when striker Lee Ellison gave the Quakers a priceless lead. Within 9 minutes, Colchester had levelled the scores, but Darlington soon regained the advantage. Robbie Painter's volley making it 2-1. The Feethams crowd were already planning the celebration party. When Gary Hemsworth's corner fell to Gary Chapman, he made no mistake for the Quakers' third. 3-1 at half-time. And soon after the break, Painter effectively wrapped up the points for his second of the game. Colchester pulled 2 goals back before the end, but another each from Ellison and Chapman, and one for Hemsworth sealed an amazing 7-3 win for Alan Murray's side. A great result at last for Darlington. Not such good news for Scarborough, though. They went down 4-0 at Wickham. Stuart.
They've had little to cheer about all season, but the 1,300 fans who turned up to watch Darlington play Colchester last night probably still can't believe what happened. Bottom of the table, without a win, and with just 7 goals scored in 13 games. Darlington doubled their goal tally with a 7-3 win. It was Alan Murray's debut home game in charge, giving the fans their first opportunity to judge the new boss.
He was my choice, he was the chap I would have selected, yes. I think he'll move them off the bottom eventually, yes, given time and money.
He came into a similar situation at Hartlepool. He did very well there. He picked up 2 or 3 good free transfers, which eventually sold him a lot of money for Hartlepool. He seems to have an eye for this sort of situation, and I think given a chance, he'll have a good go. I think he can pull us out of it.
But even the most optimistic couldn't possibly have expected what was to happen next. Less than a minute gone and Lee Ellison had put Darlington ahead.
Whoa, that was quick.
Colchester equalised before Robbie Painter got the first of his 2. 3-1 came up 14 minutes later through Gary Chapman as Darlington threatened a goal riot. And as it happened, it wasn't just an idle threat. Although Colchester got another one back, Robbie Painter got his second and Darlington's 4th. 3 more Darlington goals were to follow. They effectively doubled their goal tally in 1 game for the entire season. The reaction on the terraces, stunned but ecstatic. In the dressing room, hardly daring to believe what had happened. And on the touchline, the question on everyone's lips, just what had Alan Murray done to the team?
I don't know. The doctor says if whatever it is, they can get it on prescriptions, he'll be making a fortune.
I mean, 7 goals, that's probably as many as you've scored collectively all season, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. But they worked ever so hard tonight, and you've got to be really pleased with that. Good performance. Goals against Column, we'll have a look at that on Thursday. Obviously, I'm not happy with that. But the fact they've gone and scored 7 and played some good stuff as well, obviously lifts everybody, and the team's obviously gained an enormous amount of confidence from that.
Hartlepool provided the other high spot last night in Division 2, shrugging off their financial...
It was top against bottom at Deepdale, and Preston made home advantage count on their plastic pitch with the first half lead courtesy of Gavin Nebeling's header. Darlington levelled the scores soon after the break through Sean Gregan. But Nebeling's second regained the lead for Preston with less than 20 minutes to go. The Quakers, though, still weren't beaten, and Gary Chapman's dummy set up Robbie Painter for a second equaliser. Alan Murray's side reserved the draw, but Preston stole all 3 points 10 minutes from the end. Paul Rayner's shot rebounding for Lee Cartwright to knee past Darren Collier. 3-2, so Darlington stayed bottom of the table. But Northampton also lost, so the Quakers only 2 points adrift. Scarborough move up to 18th place thanks to a vital one of his former clubs, not Stockport County. Smiling faces at last at Feetham's. Gary Hemsworth's free kick headed home in 39 minutes by Laurie Pearson. A big step for him, his first league goal. And if it's good enough for San Marino and Crystal Palace, it's good enough for Darlington. Admittedly, in the second half, for 10 seconds after the kick-off, Lee Ellison helped Gary Chapman to make it 2-0. Just the one scare for Alan Murray's side. Paul Holland's header was helped onto the bar by Darren Collier, but he did well with the rebound. At last at Feetham's. Gary Hemsworth's free kick headed home in 39 minutes by Laurie Pearson. A big step for him, his first league goal. And if it's good enough for San Marino and Crystal Palace, it's good enough for Darlington. Admittedly, in the second half, for 10 seconds after the kick-off, Lee Ellison helped Gary Chapman to make it 2-0. Just the one scare for Alan Murray's side. Paul Holland's header was helped onto the bar by Darren Collier, but he did well with the rebound.
Appointment today, not quite as dramatic as that at Sunderland, but the third division club consider it just as important. 32-year-old John Collins becomes their new marketing director. He'll be responsible for promoting a new image for the club and generating much-needed cash. Tony Belmont reports.
I want to say good morning to each and every one of you.
At a time when the small clubs are having to battle just to survive, there's a lot of responsibility being placed on these young shoulders. The man's commitment is not in doubt. John Collins first came to watch the Quakers at the tender age of 7. He's been a fan ever since. The question is, can he generate the kind of sponsorship the club needs?
People haven't got money to throw about, and it's important that we recognise that. It will be difficult, but we hope that the community in general and the businesses in particular get behind the club, come along on the open day on December the 8th, have a look around, see what Darlington Football Club's got to offer, and take it from there.
But why get involved in Darlington Football Club?
Without being a little bit crazy, if you like, you wouldn't get involved because you can do without the hassle to a lot of degree. But you've got to love football, and if you love Darlington and you love the football side of it, why not get involved?
The open day at Feetham's is on the 8th of December. The club is offering an open invitation for potential sponsors, supporters, or anyone who just wants to find out more.
This morning's news conference gave an insight into the club's hopes for the future. It was called to announce the appointment of John Collins as marketing director and launch its Patrons Association, aimed at creating interest from local businesses outside the normal sponsorship and advertising deals. But then the chairman, John Brockbank, revealed the real way forward was to move from Feetham's, the Quakers' home since the First World War.
We are looking, if we're going to be successful, we do have to look at relocating, and I'm sure that we're going to put that in place and continue searching those avenues. Because to be a successful club, we've got to get everything right on the safety aspect, and Feetham's unfortunately just doesn't come up to that standard, and we've cost an awful lot of money to put that right. So we do have to be looking at that side of things, and we're well down those avenues now, and we'll continue to do that.
The club's moved from the bottom of the league since the appointments of Alan Murray and Eddie Kyle to run the team. And next month it's expected to announce a big improvement in last year's £200,000 deficit.
Well, time now to meet the only forecasting double act for goal number 1. The home side decided to attack the Quakers head-on. Tony Rigby and James Milligan play the 1-2, but what a spectacular own goal from Laurie Pearson. A great diving header. Darlington's defence was all over the place for Bury's third. No one's anywhere near making a challenge, and Mark Carter smashes it past Darren Collier. The game was all over as a contest, but there was more to come after the break. More poor defending, and Carter claims his second of the afternoon from the edge of the box. Alan Murray's side could have salvaged some pride after substitute Steve Ball was brought down in the area. He decided to take the spot kick himself, but cracked it against the bar. And then the keeper collected it well on the line. Darlington did trouble the scorer once. Gary Hemsworth's corner eventually falls to Matty Appleby on loan from Newcastle, and he got a goal on his debut. But Bury weren't finished. A sharp move through the middle, Carter's touch to Kelly, and he goes round Collier for his second of the match, and the home side's fifth.
Goal thriller against Lincoln. Gary Himsworth opened the scoring, but a 2-goal lead was thrown away in the second half, and he needed Robbie Painter's second of the match to clinch the points. A great left-foot volley coming up, 3-2 at the end. And finally, Scarborough held on for a deserved draw at leaders Preston. A debut goal from Jason White and a first from Craig Whittington.
Darlington's first clean sheet away from home this season was something to celebrate, but they should have won this goalless ball draw. Matty Appleby wasting the best chance and tangling with the keeper at the very end. Scarborough.
On the icy wastes of Doncaster's Bellevue ground, Darlington also enjoyed a Christmas feast. Gary Chapman got the first after 10 minutes. Lee Ellison started and finished the second after the Yorkshire side had drawn level. It took the return from Steve Thorne to Curly's shot past Andy Beasley. And Ellison was involved again as Alan Murray's side at last lifted themselves to fourth bottom of the table. Robbie Painter crashing in the third. Kane Stadium was an overwhelming victory for Scarborough. Recent signing Craig Whittington started the Darlington slide right on half-time. It was 2-0 midway through the second half after Sean Murray opened up the way for Jason White. Then, in the final minute, an unstoppable second from Whittington gave Borough their best win since last March, but it was agony for Alan Murray's team.
Oh, what a time now with Bob. Darlington could easily have taken all 3 points. They went close to scoring before Gary Chapman's impressive goal midway through the second half at Hereford. But they had to settle for a point with just 5 minutes left. Gary Himsworth judged to have fouled Owen Pickard inside the box, and Howard Clark put away the penalty. The draw kept Darlington 1 place below yesterday's opposition, third from bottom, while Steve Wick's Scarborough moved back out of the danger zone to 16th place.
Well, in rugby, the weather gave Newcastle Gosforth a break from the traumas of league competition.
11 before Darlington moved out of the bottom 3 with another fine win at Feetham's, but they did have to fight back after Gillingham took the lead. Nick Forster's shot followed up by Libert Henry, and that made it 1-0 just after the break. Alan Murray's side hit back with a stunner from Robbie Painter. He latched onto the keeper's clearance, and Steve Banks was stranded in the Gillingham goal. Plenty to celebrate for a change at Feetham's. Painter went on to provide the ammunition for the Quakers' winner. His cross from the left was headed home by Lee Ellison, and that made the final score 2-1.
And a valuable point for Darlington at Chester. Darren Collier, the Quakers' hero, with a superb one-handed save. But Darlington's Steve Gorm was in trouble next. His clash with Paul Wheeler was seen by the referee as a deliberate punch. He was sent off.
So none of our football...
New challenge across at Darlington.
When Alan Murray arrived at Feetham's in October, it marked the end of 8 months in the football wilderness. Almost a year ago, Murray was sacked by Hartlepool chairman Gary Gibson in the same season as taking Poole to their highest ever league position.
Well, I'm sad to see that the club's in the demise it is. We had a great time there, and unfortunately it didn't end very well, but I have a lot of affection for the players and the people at Hartlepool, and they deserve to have a football team there, and I sincerely hope that things work out for them.
Murray's first home game in charge of Darlington brought their first win of the season, an amazing 7-3 victory over Colchester. The Quakers were bottom of the Football League, but the manager always knew their position was a false one.
I always felt, having a bit more knowledge about Darlington football than perhaps just an ordinary applicant for the position, that there was potential here, and if you get them up and running, it's capable of sustaining 4,400 crowd.